Beginning in 2011, MAC and the ARC undertook a cultural assessment of the Atlanta region with the whole fact that many regions around the country are paying a lot more attention to the concept of the creative economy. We want to understand what was our creative economy here in Atlanta, what were the assets that we had to try to build upon, and how do we shape that into the future. As we were nearing the end of this this assessment, the Americans for the Arts came out with their national report, a 2012 report called Creative Industries. And it talks a lot about how different regions around the country fare in terms of supporting and promoting the creative economy. So let me show you a few things that they said about our region. This wasn't our work, this was their work. And so first of all, amongst the top 100 cities in population, on a per capita basis, the city of Atlanta ranks number 2 in the number of arts-related businesses and organizations. And amongst the top 100 counties in population, Fulton County is the 4th highest in per capita arts-related businesses, DeKalb 10th, and you can see Cobb 16th and Gwinnett 20th. So altogether, we have a region that is very strong in terms of the number of arts and culture organizations and businesses. So when we're talking about arts-related businesses, it's not just the nonprofits, it's also the for-profit businesses that serve or relate to creative endeavors. Metro Atlanta region on a per capita basis ranks the highest in the number of employees that are employed by arts-related businesses, and I'll give you those numbers in a minute. And we're the 3rd highest in the number of arts-related businesses. So we have a very deep and rich asset base. And you see some of the circles on this map show you some of our competitors who are also highly ranked: San Francisco, Portland, Chicago, and some others, Austin, Dallas, that you're somewhat familiar with. Historically, ARC has always tried to encourage the support of arts and culture as a part of community development. And in our 50 Forward exercise that started in 2008 and was finished in 2010, we set some strategies for this. 50 Forward, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is the 50-year vision plan for the Metro region. And this was started by our former ARC board chairman, Sam Olens, who's now Attorney General, of course, and former Mayor Shirley Franklin, who said, in thinking about how the region's future evolves, we don't need to think about just the next 20 or 30 years. What's our 50-year vision of who we want to be as a region? And arts and culture and identifying the need for promoting arts and culture was an important part of the 50 Forward plan. And so here are some of the main strategies that came out of that. First and foremost, we need to pursue opportunities for economic development based upon our entertainment industry. We have a very strong, robust entertainment industry. I think everybody's familiar now with the fact that we're one of the #1 places in the country for film, you know. And in fact, later on this week, this block will be hard to get around because of a new film that's going to be shooting around here. We need to support economic and community development through a strong arts and culture scene. So now, if I say Charleston, what do you think about? Spoleto, right? Well, for people who know Austin, what do you think about? South by Southwest, huge festival that attracts people from all over the world. And of course, if I say New Orleans, everybody knows automatically, what is it? The Jazz Festival. Folks, we have more arts and culture businesses and employees than any of those and most of the rest of the country. But what do people think about when they think about Atlanta when it comes to arts and culture? Yeah, you can't think of it, can you? Because we haven't done a good job of promoting our own identity and our own assets. And that's what we need to do a much better job of doing so. In our 30-year regional development plan that focuses on transportation and community development, Plan 2040, we talk about how we will, at the ARC, begin to work collaboratively with other community partners to drive more arts and culture as a part of the overall regional development, including encouraging as a part of healthy lifestyles and activity, involvement in cultural and arts organizations, promoting growth that encourages and incorporates arts and cultural resources and the management of those resources as a distinct and important part of our asset as we grow as a region. And now on to the cultural assessment itself. When we were doing the cultural assessment, we went and visited and did forums in every county in the 10-county region, in some cases more than one. And we wanted to hear from the arts organizations and the arts-related businesses in that part of the region in each of those counties, as well as from general citizens to tell us, how does art and culture fit with our economic development? Obviously, how does it help enhance our quality of life in our neighborhoods? And things that you may not think about, what does it do for our workforce competitiveness? How do we help either grow a better worker, or how do we help attract a better worker by virtue of that asset? What does it do for our cultural infrastructure? What kind of needs are there from the arts and culture businesses, and so on and so forth? So I'm giving you a quick context here. You can see the full report on our Atlanta Regional Commission website. But here are 4 key findings that came out of the cultural assessment that I want to share with you. We have, in the 10-county region, over 1,700 nonprofit arts and culture organizations, that they have ticket sales in 2011 of over $500 million and an asset base of $1.8 billion. That represents just under 50% of all the arts and culture organizations in the entire state, in the 10-county region. Now, these are the nonprofits, not the for-profit related businesses, of which there are a lot more. Mayor Kasim Reed, when we were doing interviews with key leaders as a part of the cultural assessment, said the following: if a community isn't seen as cool, it's not going to progress in the future. And for those of you who are familiar with the book, The Rise of the Creative Class, written by Richard Florida, that postulates that, in fact, the most vibrant and the strongest economic metropolitan regions in the country are those that also correlate with having a very strong creative and arts and culture scene. So that was one of the findings. The 10-county metro region is home to over 15,000 arts and culture related businesses. This is not just the nonprofits, but the for-profits. Over 15,000 businesses that employ over 62,000 people. And this is as of 2011, when we're in the downturn, folks. These are not insignificant numbers. We have a very, very rich and deep asset base here. And we have to find a better way to leverage and promote it. IBM had recently done a study that we borrowed from some of the information there, and in that it made this conclusion that access to arts engender creative thinking, critical and creative thinking. So when IBM is looking for communities to expand into or to relocate their business, this is a key component of what they look for. How rich is the creative base, not only in the community, but also in the school system, because they know that balance really helps promote a better, more creative thinker as an employer. Our 11 top institutions, nonprofit institutions, had over $1.7 million in ticket sales last year, representing all 50 states. And what you should know is that 30%, almost 30% of those ticket sales were from outside of the region. So the point is that people come not just from inside the region, but from the rest of the state, around the Southeast and around the country, for arts, to get arts that they want to. Or if they're here in town for whatever reason, they'll look for opportunities to enjoy a really good artistic or cultural event or festival. So our arts and culture have the potential to speak to the entire nation and indeed the entire world. Lastly, I'll leave you with these thoughts on some emerging trends. It's very clear for folks who are experts in metropolitan regions and their economies that the creative cities, those that have large groups of creative workers and businesses, tend to command a premium in the wage scale for the workers, okay? There's also a very strong correlation between the communities that have a strong arts and culture ecosystem with that region's GDP. It's not necessarily a causal relationship, but there's a very strong correlation between the two. And then arts training improves visual thinking and abilities. I can speak to this personally. I tell everybody that I'm a musician, aspiring musician, disguised as an engineer. And friends of mine who know me well know that to be very true. Public funding for the arts can help generate and leverage a lot of increased private investment. We've seen that in our own history here in Atlanta. The private sector has always been very good at supporting the arts, but only when the public sector is willing to lead. And then it's important to recognize that arts and cultural organizations are an important part of the region's growth, and they thrive on that as well. So with that, I will call it a day, and we'll have the rest of my panelists come up, and we'll talk a little bit more about this.